Hey guys, welcome back to the Cool Classic Kids Show, and today I'm responding to Game Pass haters and Asmongold. And I purposely separate the two because Game Pass haters are really just PlayStation fanboys that essentially go out of their way to pour shame Game Pass users whenever they possibly can, all while wanting nothing more than to see Xbox fail as a company, as a brand, as a console, whatever have you. They somehow think that this is something to, I don't know, celebrate? It's very, very weird. Whereas we have Asmongold, who is a different type of person entirely. Dude advocates for um, potential customers' rights as well as gamers' rights. And he's willing to say the quiet stuff out loud. And I respect him for that. I actually like a lot of his content. But I'm here to say that Game Pass does not cannibalize game sales in any significant way. All right. And I wrote, I made a little tweet on Twitter and it went viral, so much so to the point where Asmongold actually responded to it, which is kind of crazy. And I was making, silly jokes saying how he couldn't ratio me, and technically he hasn't, but to get into the tweet and to get into the details, and I quoted a bunch of weirdos in the gaming space that's constantly saying Game Pass cannibalizes sales and quote unquote PC gamers don't buy games. And my response is just shut the fuck up. And I referenced the Steam DB chart for Expedition 33 because the game is doing phenomenally well for a small development team, and it being day one on Game Pass, while also being in competition to Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster is also day one on Game Pass. Both of these games doing exceptionally well. There's game after game after game now that's doing well on Game Pass, and there's just a lot of copium surrounding it from PlayStation console gremlins more than anything else. I guess they're secretly upset they have to pay full price for all these games, but then they don't have options. But Asmongold ended up responding to this tweet and he said, "It's undeniable that Game Pass acts as a market replacement for buying games. That's literally its value proposition." And you know what? He's technically not wrong, but this isn't the full picture. And the thing is, with Twitter, you can't have a nuanced conversation. You can't actually, get into every minute detail. But we're going to talk about that. And I would love, honestly, to hear Asmongold's full thoughts surrounding Game Pass and perhaps even his thoughts on this video, because I think I'm going to bring up a lot of valid points that he likely would agree with. But I responded to his tweet and I said, "Every game I played and liked on Game Pass, I own multiple times. So I think people that want to collect or want to buy the games will always be buying the games. Whereas the people that were always renting or buying secondhand and selling back, they're always going to cheap out." Now, I'm not saying that out of disrespect, but I know a lot of friends, for example, that have always cut as much corners to save every little dime they possibly can when it comes to buying games. And they would get what they want for the most part, but a lot of these same people are Game Pass users, and they've been consistent Game Pass users. And I think they're always going to be consistent Game Pass users. And for me, I've used Game Pass sometimes, but relatively, I don't really use it very much. Normally have used it the most when I've been kind of, down on my luck sort of deal. Uh, Thankfully, I haven't been in that position in a couple of years now, so I haven't really had to use Game Pass. But when I do, it's been very helpful to me given some of the situations I've been in. But I've also, like I said, went and gone bought those games on multiple platforms later on. Like for example, The Outer Worlds. I played The Outer Worlds on PC Game Pass when PC Game Pass was in beta. All right, so I bought. I got PC Game Pass. I played through the entire game, and I ended up buying a physical copy on the PS4. I even got the DLC on there. Was playing it through there, and I ended up buying it on PC as well because when I really love a game, I just want to own it everywhere that I'm playing it at. Right? That's just me personally. And I know that I like The Outer Worlds, so obviously, yeah, I'm gonna just buy it because I know that I like the video game. But to bring it home and really discuss my points, Game Pass does not cannibalize game sales in any significant way. Now, Asmongold is saying like, Game Pass acts as a market replacement for buying games, and I guess it to some extent, to some people, that could be the case. But I think what really What really is the case, and what I think Asmongold would probably agree with even more than that, is that Game Pass is a replacement for the used games market. And Microsoft is doing this in a way that's not by force, but by the choice of the gamer, which is a huge differentiation to when they announced Xbox One and essentially said, yeah, fuck you. You're not going to be able to use used games anymore. You're not going to be able to share games. You're not going to be able to do any of that anymore, right? They're now, they've created a subscription service model that rivals the used games market, is more convenient than the previous used games market, and people that have indulged in the used games market can embrace and be relatively happy with. It's replacing Blockbuster, it's replacing GameStop used game sales, and GameFly. It's more convenient than all of those. And I would argue it's even better than all of those because a huge positive to that is at least the game developers or, the company publishers behind those games actually get to see money from Game Pass, right? That's different from the GameStop used sales, right? I used to buy used games from GameStop here and there, and guess what I would do? I would buy like 3 games to bring them home and play them for within that week and return them and get all of my money back. And then there's some games that I would keep occasionally too, but guess what? The game developers, the game companies behind these games never saw a dime of that money. Game Pass is more convenient than GameFly because you access it immediately. And then we have Blockbuster. And the people that are poor shaming Game Pass users are pretending that they've never actually used Blockbuster back in the day, which that in itself is sad if you did happen to use it and then you're now acting the way you are now. But it's also worth saying that in the current day and age where games are too expensive, man, $70 to now soon to be $80 for a video game is ridiculous. All right, corporations are trying to even rip you off even after the purchase, and more games are coming out than ever before. And a lot of it is sad to say slop. And I think so many of us are genuinely sick and tired of it. I think the only thing that in this instance technically is cannibalizing game sales is gamers being able to make more informed purchasing decisions. And Game Pass is actually one of the tools that helps gamers make those good purchasing decisions. Look, man, everyone's blamed the economy for essentially everything, right? Reasonably so, but Game Pass didn't hurt sales. It just really helped a market that nobody wants to buy shit video games in. It gave gamers a different option as opposed to spending $70. $70 is just too goddamn fucking expensive for the mass majority of these garbage games to be priced at. I think the big reason why Expedition 33 did so phenomenally well is not even because it was on Game Pass, but because the game was reasonably priced at $50 and even had a little bit of a sale, at least on Steam, if you ended up pre ordering. This game had a reasonable budget and a small development team that was able to do exceptional things that allowed the game to be priced at a price point that people think is reasonable, especially in a market where a bunch of garbage games are way more expensive even years after release. In a market where Nintendo is saying, "Hey, we're going to charge you $80 for video games now, motherfuckers." Like it's ridiculous. The more you continue to try and siphon money from gamers, the more they're going to look at these more reasonably priced games and throw their money at these developers or companies that choose to do the pro consumer thing. To me, the saddest thing of all here is that the very same people who revolted against the Xbox One and bought a PS4 because Microsoft was trying to pretty much entirely kill off the used games market, it is these same people are poor shaming people and they're trying to destroy Game Pass, which is the modern day used market. You can't make this shit up. You can't it's unbelievable, man. I'm one of those people that revolted against Xbox and bought a PS4 because the Xbox One, what they were asking was ridiculous. All right. And the final thing I have to say about Game Pass haters, which are really just PlayStation console gremlins that are just constantly crying and bitching about how Game Pass cannibalizes sales instead of just acknowledging the reality. It's just the modern day used games market. Uh, they're defending and supporting overpriced $70 slop games. And then when games become 80, 90, and $100, they'll also find some dumbass way to defend that as well. And they do also advocate for platform exclusive video games, and they somehow will defend and be completely delusional to the reality that that is hindering game sales more than anything else. Game Pass overall has helped people make more informed purchasing decisions. I mean, they even have sales if you are a part of Game Pass specifically, and which is cool too. So does encourage people that do happen to subscribe to the service to also go and buy the video game. But I think overall we're in a market in which games are too expensive while everything else is also super expensive. And a lot of people really they just don't wanna buy garbage video games in this situation. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I have to say on the subject matter. Um, it's cool that Asmongold responded to me, and who knows, maybe you'll see this video and check it out and maybe expand on the conversation because I think it'd be interesting, what his take would be on this since we kinda slightly differ, but not completely. But, yeah, guys, if you haven't, hit the like button, share this out, subscribe to the channel. Follow me over on Twitter at Mario Kart if you'd like to continue the conversation. And yeah, guys, with all being said, I'm out. Peace.